Great day today. Hope everybody's having a great day this morning. I'm just trying to get some things working right here. Kind of slow and get some things done, but take a deep breath. So, like I said, thank you for tuning in to Workplace this morning. After 9 o'clock here on KABF 88.3. So glad that you decided to tune in and listen this morning. Like the song said, we got work to do. There's so much that needs to be done. We know we got a new state general assembly in place. We have a new governor in place, and the governor's already working on what she wants to do, and so we need to start working on things we need to do. I'm your host for the Workplace, Toney Orr. And the Workplace is always sponsored and underwritten by United Labor Unions Local 100, for the people, by the people. And as always, in the studio with me. Not always, but sometimes she's right here. So most of the time in the studio with me is my co-host. What's the word I'm going to use today?
Yeah, what is a word that you want to use today? What are you doing?
This thinking. I don't know. I just say the Reverend Doctor.
Oh, here you go. I already know what kind of day it's gonna be. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for the Workplace. Oh, while I'm here, can I go ahead and make an announcement?
Yes.
Well, it's not an announcement. It is a plea for help. That's what I have right now. A plea, a cry for help. I need a car, y'all. And I would love for it to be a cash car so we can just pay cash for it instead of having to finance something. Unless you can finance a cash car, like can you finance about $3,000 or $4,000? I don't know. So I would you can. I would love for it to be a Honda or a Toyota or Nissan, because those are the only cars I've ever bought in my life. But I'm open. Need something that's reliable enough to go to Conway and back on a regular basis. And again, want it to be something that's not expensive, like buying it off of the lot, but it needs to be reliable. I am ready right now. We are ready to make the purchase. My phone number is area code 228-236-7440. Area code 228-236-7440. Somebody, anybody, everybody, help me find this car. I need it as soon as possible. Thank you all so much.
Okay, thank you, Denise. And so I was running a little behind this morning. I had to go to Shreveport yesterday and work, and so I got back not real late, but about 11:30 last night, and slept in this morning. So normally I get to the station between 7 and 7:30 in the morning. I didn't get here today to right around 8:30. So there was a discussion I wanted to have, so I rushed in trying to get all the information I could to have this discussion with you, my listeners. Seven of them, to be exact. I know some places it was 7, some places it was 8. And so just want to have a discussion about some of these executive orders and how they not only affect us, but how it affects so many other things. That's going on in the state. I was having a discussion with someone yesterday, and we kind of talked about a few of them, and we both had different ideas about how this was going to play out and what we thought, there are going to be some of these orders that's going to stick out to some people. That's going to be like this big neon sign that's blinking, but it's going to be some that people may not think that they're important, or may not think more deeply about, but they will have maybe even a greater impact on so many people, and if these executive orders are pushed through. And I'm not sure, but even though they're executive orders, I don't know if they have to still go through the General Assembly to be approved, or is it just something the governor can just write off, and all of a sudden it's implemented without any discussion, without anything. So if anybody knows the answer to that, give me a call. Maybe you know the
Yeah,
answer.
they're executive orders, so they go straight
They
through.
go straight through. Okay, so I'm gonna read them off first, and then we're gonna have a discussion about them. I'm just gonna read them off, and I did get information on all of them, so then we can go a little deeper into them. So the first one is that Governor Sanders has issued a hiring freeze. It says executive order to institute an immediate hiring and promotion freeze. So that's the first one. The second one is an audit of previous executive orders. And like I said, I'm just going to read them off, and then we can get more into each one of them. The third one was update Arkansas's unemployment insurance program. The other was prohibit critical race theory. The next one is ban TikTok from government devices. Remove Latinx from state documents. And institute an educational reform plan. And so those are the ones that, like I said, those are the seven that were listed. And so we just want to have a discussion about them. So Denise, which one do you think we need to discuss first?
Well, I have already been asked to discuss the critical race theory one first. I think a lot of people are concerned about that one. Let me just read this little tidbit as it relates to the executive order. A part of me is concerned about the media, always concerned about the media and how they frame things, and so they frame things so that it automatically elicits a response from us. And so I think that we have to be careful not to be guided by or misguided by the media in the way that the language that the media is using. So I just want to give just an objective, like doesn't have any triggering language in it. Just this is what the order says for critical race theory. The Secretary of Education will review and identify any teaching items that may purposely or not promote teachings like critical race theory. It would look for ideologies that encourage students to discriminate against people based on legally protected characteristics. The order states that teachers should still be able to discuss ideas and histories of concepts and public policy issues. So I want to give you that little brief description without these triggering words that some people are using that may create even more chaos around an already controversial issue.
Yes, and as I was reading the whole executive order this morning, one thing that was said in the order said, whereas critical race theory is and
I'm not sure. I don't see the word. Critical race theory is antithetical.
Antithetical. Mm-hmm. And so Miss Denise, can you explain?
Go ahead and read the whole thing, and then we'll.
Okay. To traditional American values of neutrality, equality, and fairness. It emphasizes skin color as a person's primary characteristics. Therefore, resurrecting segregation values which America has fought hard to reject.
Right. So antithetical means it's in opposition of. And so what this says, what you just read, says that what we know about America, what they are proposing that we know about America, America, is that America was founded on values that say that all of us, remember, all men are created equal, that all of us, regardless of our race in particular, regardless of that, we should be treated equally. So then when you have critical race theory, or the idea that they have about critical race theory is that it focuses on race and it sets us apart based on that race. So for you to set us apart and separate us based on race, that's in opposition to the way the founding fathers wrote the Constitution, which says, no, all of us are equal. And so that's what they're trying to say. But it's important for us to understand that, first of all, we know that the founding fathers who wrote that many of them were slaveholders. And so we cannot say that this is the truth about, that this is an accurate representation about who we are as a country, first of all. And so what critical race theory is a pull, a draw, compelling us to have, to be more honest about who we are as a country and who we have been, and to realize that race has played a significant role in who we are and who we continue to be. And let's talk about that. That's what critical race theory calls us to do, invites us to do. But people don't want to talk about that, because then you'll have to tell the truth about the racism that we are facing and the fact that we were created as a racist nation.
Right. And so, and you said something that a lot of people missed in this whole executive order, this whole statement, is that they still are encouraging students and educators to still, they're not taking history away. You can still talk about history. You can still have the discussion about certain things within history, to include slavery and other things. But when I read that, when it talked about it, because it kept using the word indoctrination, that you don't want to have any type of, in fact, it says, whereas schools must educate, not indoctrinate students, and their education policies must protect children and prepare them to enter the workforce. Teachers and school administrators should teach students how to think, not what to think. And so I think on that basis, a lot of people feel like maybe, what you're trying to do is not tell the truth and not be honest about the truth. And we don't want that in our schools. But I still think that part of this order will still allow for that discussion, and will still allow for that discussion.
Well, it does give teachers the opportunity, the permission to have the discussion. I think part of the conversation is who's willing to have the conversation, right? And some people are not willing to have the conversation, which is why we also need to include students in this dialogue. So students have to understand, or need to understand, or it would be great for them to understand that you have a right to raise the issue. So when certain concepts, when certain ideas are brought up in the classroom, you have the right, you have the power to say, wait a minute, what about this? What about that? To invite the conversation. And the teacher is not allowed to shut that down. And so some teachers who are reluctant to have the conversation, the students don't have to depend on them. The students can decide for themselves that they're going to be independent thinkers. And that's interesting that they say we want to teach you how to think, but not what to think. If you want to teach me how to think, that means that you give me all the information and you allow me to use my critical thinking skills to decipher what is true for me and what is not. But if you withhold some information, then you've put me at a disadvantage in order to make a decision. And so that has to be part of the question of the conversation. No, I'm not teaching you what to think, but I need to give you everything you can possibly have in order to make the best decision and draw the best conclusion.
Yes, and what's so fascinating, people think that critical race theory is something that just popped up on the spectrum, a few years ago, but in reality, it was something that was discussed many, I think I want to say in the late 70s, early 80s is when it first started, was talking about these discussions about race. And it wasn't until I think the 1619 project, right, Hannah Nicole Jones, that when it came out, that's when this uproar started to happen. But I believe that if you have the discussion, and especially for students to know the full truth of what this country is about and how this country is about. Call you on air.
Hey, Tony.
Yes.
Denise, how y'all doing?
Hey, ooh, hey.
Whole week to the whole while, y'all. That's what I'm talking about. Hey, especially if you're talking about this critical race theory. Hey, man, I was looking at Sarah's inauguration. Sarah Sanders, Huckabee Sanders. I was looking at her inauguration when I was listening to what she was saying. And she was saying that she's going to make a change in the public schools in Arkansas, and that she's going to eventually raise a bill to where the teachers will get more pay. But you know what, Tony, like you said, and Denise, you the same. This stuff been going on back in the 60s and the 70s. This ain't nothing new. And you know what? I can say one thing, y'all. When I was in school, I didn't hear nothing about they're talking about same-sex marriage, this and that, confusing kids' minds. You know, our kid don't know who the mama or the daddy is in a same-sex marriage, but they're trying to institute this up. I hope she's real about what she's saying, y'all, because that is unconstitutional. God don't like ugly, and he don't praise ugly. Because ugly ain't good. But you know what? Hey.
Wait a minute. Let me make sure I'm understanding what you're saying. Are you saying that people who are same gender loving, God doesn't like them and that's ugly, and God don't like ugly, and God, is that what you're saying?
No, I'm saying let me rephrase that. God don't like ugly, and he ain't too. God loves good, but he ain't crazy about ugly.
What are you defining as ugly? What are you calling ugly? Because you brought up people who are same gender loving, people who are. So are you calling? That's what you're calling ugly?
Well, I'm talking about it being as far as teaching it in the schools. I mean, that should be done like that. I mean, I was raised up in the Bible.
So you're saying the schools are teaching
male and female, not male and male, and female and female. They teaching this stuff with this race gender, with this stuff they doing now. That ain't right. That ain't right, Denise. It ain't right. I mean, it confuses the minds of kids. They confuse. They don't. You know, it's like, hey, like that. Excuse me for changing the subject for a minute, y'all. But about that kid, that 6-year-old kid.
Wait, I don't want to change the subject. I don't want to change the subject. I want you to go back and make sure that I'm clear on what you're saying. You're saying that that educators are in the schools, in the classrooms, teaching children about what it means to be in same gender loving relationships, and that the children are confused because the curriculum in the classroom is teaching them what it means, teaching them that it's okay to have parents that are of the same gender. You're saying that's what's being taught in the schools, and that is what God calls ugly, and that God is not pleased with that. I just want to make sure I'm clear that that's what you're saying.
Yeah, God's not pleased with that. No, he's not pleased with that. No, he's not pleased with that because, you know, that's not the way he made creation to be.
Okay, first of all, that's not what's being taught in the schools. Like, I don't know where you're getting this information from, but there's no part of the curriculum that focuses on teaching children what it means to be same gender loving. Secondly, I don't think that you are the expert on who God is and what God created us to be, because sexual orientation is not something that you choose. It's who you are. And so I think that it's important for us, just like we were talking earlier, critical race theory is about making sure that we are thinking deeply and critically about whatever it is we're talking about. In that case, it's talking about race, but in this case, it's talking about sexual orientation. And I think we have got to be more educated, especially as Black folks, because you're now using this as a wedge issue to separate us from each other, because you're telling me that if I'm same gender loving, I'm going to hell. Do you have the right to do that? Do you even have the authority? Do you even have the knowledge and the understanding and the education to do that?
No, Denise, I'm not God. I can't make those decisions. I go based on what I hear. And, you know, I think I've been around long enough to know that when things ain't right, things ain't right.
Well, for you to call people who are same gender loving wrong, I think that you should rethink that. And I'm not going to let you get away with it, because they are not wrong and you don't get to speak for God.
Yeah, I respect you for that, Denise, and I respect you so much. And girl, punch on my feet, both on it. Thank you for helping me there.
Yeah. Now you wanted to talk about the 6-year-old that shot the child, shot the.
You know what? Hey, that's how the world is getting nowadays. I mean, these kids is on these videos and stuff, and they got, you know, the industry has promoted these kids to buying these games. And so where they shooting on the games all the time. And now this kid got a 9mm from his mom. Now why do a mama want to leave a pistol out with a child who find it when she buying them games like Call of Duty 3 and all this bloodshed going on? So when he got an argument with the teacher said he came back with a 9mm. She said she put her hands in front of her face, trying to save herself. She didn't know no 6-year-old gonna shoot up.
Yeah, my understanding is that she was going to take she wanted to take the gun from the child. She's a teacher. She thought that maybe the child would respond to her. Let me take this from you because this is dangerous. And as she tried to do that, the student fired. So when she was shot in the abdomen through her hands because that's what she was trying to do, take the gun from him.
Right, and you know, someone apprehended the child. They apprehended the child after that. You know, because no one expected that. But I don't want to get into a caboose with you on that. Denise Da'Light, as far as like critical race theory, because you know what? Hey, I just go through what God has put in my heart to know to be about what it is, and I'm not no professor.
I don't believe that God put it in your heart for you to say that people who are same gender loving, God does not like, or that they are wrong, or that they are ugly. I don't think God put that in your heart. When we talk about indoctrination, I think some preacher told you that. Yeah, I know for a fact God didn't tell you that. I know man told you that. A human told you that. We've been indoctrinated to believe that. But God created us all as divine reflection. Yeah, it is.
I hear you. We got somebody else calling in. Yeah. Hey, caller, thank you for holding on.
Yeah, now let's get back to now, some white are racist suspects. But when you come out to the shift in a race like she did with her executive orders, we have to just look at her as a functional racist, especially when it comes to the critical race theory. It is said not to know what happened before we were born is to remain perpetually a child. Now, that's what they try to do to us all the time, keep us in a certain place. Now, when it comes to entering the workforce, it's just like the good old saying, made in the USA. They want slave labor, especially in this territory where they want to open up prisons instead of doing the right thing. Now, if truth is not revealed through the correct presentation of facts, it is impossible to promote justice and correctness. So when I say the facts, everybody know all of the atrocities that we went through, but they don't want to present the facts to promote justice. And that's what's going on in this situation. Now they select their facts and represent it in a special way. That's what they call, in their educational situation, indoctrination, or they want to indoctrinate us to stay on the same path. They do not want us to really know about this confusing constitution, which stated that we were 3/5, and we wasn't free up until the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment. So that's two constitutions, really. But they're broad and ambiguous terms that keep us confused. That's why Dr. Phil would call it, and he wrote a book about the confusion constitution. So we have to know, and we have to pinpoint They're not all white people. They say we have people of color, white people, and the races. Now, like I say, in my book, she's not a racist suspect anymore. She's a functional racist when she jumps and really just shows. Like you said, they had 7 or 8. That one about the critical race theory might have been the main one, but they try to mask it with all these other Latinx and all this other stuff. But I would pray for the dear sister. The brothers ask always come in and say, we have to pray for our leaders in high places. I would say it's prayer time, y'all, because especially, like I say, with all these prisons that they have appropriated and pipeline the prison, like I say, we are in some kind of trouble. I won't go on and on. But my main point is functional racism. We can see it now in our leaders. But like I said, we still have to pray for them. In other words, peace and love to all.
Let me get these comments in from Rick. There's a series of them. One of them says, I'm wondering if Black people can handle the Black truth. Obama wasn't the first Black president. Blacks before the war, before the 50 states. He goes on to say they will do it like they did the Bible. Critical race theory will shame some Blacks. What Black leader can we run to for help? Another question, why is sexuality in our thinking? That is a personal preference. Nobody knows until you make a point for people to accept it. When I wake up, I'm Black. That's enough already. Rick also says, I'm tired of calling and not getting in. Community voices. Some of you go too long explaining your feelings. And I guess he must have logged off because he said, have a happy weekend.
So it's not by coincidence. Well, it's ironic that the song that I chose when I first started this show over a decade ago was There's Work to Do. And all these years later, that song, even though I just chose it on a whim, but it resonates with so many things that are going on. And so when you look at these executive orders, and I just thought about it a minute ago, you have to wonder, when I say we have work to do, collectively as Black people, as society, we have work to do. But Sarah Sanders got work to do too. She's working for the people that elected her. And they have ideas. They have a strategy. They have an agenda. And she is the person that's going to fulfill that. And when you look at it, when you talk about the critical race theory, when you start talking about education reform, that's another executive order she put in to review the education reform. But also, she comes up with this learns thing idea where she wants to incorporate more charter schools. And so I do agree with you, Denise, that nobody is teaching this sexual identity in these classrooms, but because someone said it, now it becomes this focal point. And so when now you want to create a space for what you want children to be taught. So you get your new educational commissioner from Florida, which we know the policy of Ron DeSantis. We know how Floridians, their policies and how their ideas are. So you bring that here and you want the same implementation thing to be implemented here. Then you throw in the idea of, we're going to take Latinx out. So all this is the playbook that's playing into the work that they have to do or the work they want to do. And we have to be mindful of that. This is not something that she just got up and threw out. This is a strategic plan to get a certain agenda done for the people that she worked for. Carla, you on there? Yes.
was going to talk to me about the comments you had.
Can you turn your radio down, please?
Yes, sir. I was going to talk to me about the comments you had. She tried to belittle that man because he said that God is not like us, but I want to tell you that God does not like us. No homosexual, no murderer, no adulterer, no fornicators, no idolaters will enter the kingdom of heaven.
Oh, thank you for reminding me of what the Bible says.
Yes, ma'am. You said that that man did not know this and that, but that man was speaking what the Holy Bible said. You belittled him, and he started stuttering and forgot what he wanted to say because he felt like you put him on the spot. But God don't like ugly, and that is ugly, and what they're putting in our schools is ugly. They let the transgenders come and talk to our kids and tell them about transgender. That's not cool. God breathed life into man, and God gave man a woman. A man and a man cannot make a child. A man and a woman cannot make a child. The Bible says to be fruitful and multiply. You cannot multiply a man and a man and a woman and a woman. So that is ugly, and God does not like that.
Okay, thank you, caller.
Right.
And so herein lies our problem. And so Sarah Huckabee's work has already started. And so now here we are, fighting and arguing about sexual orientation in the midst of all of these voices. We talked about the hiring freeze, we talked about the insurance, we talked about educational reform, we talked about all of these things, and here we are going back and forth about whether or not God created somebody to be same gender loving or to be transgender. That's not the argument, people. That's a distraction. So we need to be working and focused on what the work is for us to do, and to liberate each other regardless of who you love and who you love.
Call you on there.
Yeah, man, I was just hoping that's some more intellectual knowledge that come on and say that they absolutely adore Christians. There are so many Christians that I really do care about. And there are some people out there that claim Christianity and claim that they know what God wants, like that last gentleman caller. I'm going to be polite to say that I hope he understands the definition of ignorance, but he is ignorant, and he is unaware of the book that he is trying to uphold for his ideals. According to that book, God loves everyone, and according to me, I love everyone, and I think that anybody that is struggling to try to get any rights as a human being should be looked at as every other human being, whether they're homeless or anything that they do. And that's the way that man, supposed God, unfortunately, that is why I'm not a Christian, because of Christians like that. And I really hope that he parts some peace, but I hope that he never makes another phone call to this station to make this station look as if its listeners are anything close to that, because this is a very respectful and middle of the road liberal station. I don't even think it's far left. I think that you guys respect everybody, and I'm really grateful for the conversation that you're having today. And I need to get my voice off of your show so that I can listen to you speak. Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate that. But
And I think that it's a great opportunity. We talked about this on Tuesday when Sophie was talking about cognitive dissonance. And the call before this one, talking about telling me what the Bible says, is a classic example of it. So you say that you are a Christian, you say that you believe God, and so your core belief is that God says you love everybody, but then you can't live it out because you don't believe that people who are same gender loving are worthy of that love. And so that's what cognitive dissonance is. You say this is what you believe, but when it's time for you to demonstrate that belief, you are unable to.
call you on air.
Yeah. I'm just calling so first of all, thank y'all for your show. It sounds great, and I like what you're covering. I agree with you on how a lot of this is sort of a distraction from bigger things that are going on, like you're calling fighting over all of this nonsense. But I mean, it is important what everything, you know, being discussed as far as us loving each other, not judging each other, and I think just finding some ground to agree on. And but one thing that I see as far as like the previous caller, you know, we can't, one way to belittle somebody and I guess on the Christian side of things, say relating the word to ignorance with it. And it's not ignorance, it's just personal belief and truth, you know. I mean, if someone believes their truth, that's their truth. But that's no way to kind of try to handle things, whatever. We can just find each other's differences and kind of try to find some kind of common ground there. But belittling somebody and saying that their belief is ignorant is ridiculous whenever it's been read for so many years now. I just don't think it's right to say that. And I agree with, you know, there's a lot of literature in the Bible saying that they don't agree with homosexual marriage and homosexuality, and anybody can live the way they want to. But when it comes down to our children being brought up and people's personal beliefs, I don't think it should be put in the school system. I don't think that should be put on to anybody. I believe everybody has their own right to be or say whatever they want, you know, in a sense. But yeah, that's really all I was trying to get out there, is that everybody's got their ideals and is on there. But yeah, it's kind of, we don't need to belittle any of those views either, you know.
And so I understand, and from where we started out in this conversation, and the one thing about my show, The Workplace, we flow. We flow with however you, the listening audience, comes in, and we try to flow with it. But the one thing that, you know, when I said that Governor Sanders is working for the people who elected her, those majority of the people who elected her, and those lobbyists and those other people, that's who she's working for. And all you have to do when you listen to the executive orders, just listen to the wording of these executive orders. Yes, we can discuss and we can debate about sexual identity, about the Bible all day, but it's still not going to stop the violence that's being perpetrated through some of these orders, through some of these rules, through some of these regulations. Executive order to reduce government rules and regulations. And you think about regulations. There are some things that have to be regulated that they want to get rid of. That they think, yeah, they said the government has too many regulations. Well, it's some things. So if you get rid of all these regulations, you're talking about OSHA won't have a voice. Who is OSHA? They're the ones that look out for your health and safety on your workplace. Oh, you want to get rid of some other stuff. So now you get rid of all these things to look into and review workforce for unemployment. And within there, they want to say we have to look at people's criminal records. So if I got a criminal record, I can't get unemployment. So those are the things that we have to look at. Those are the things that, you know, then an immediate hiring freeze. So now I'm going to put in place the people I want to be in place. What about those people who are working at these state agencies, who have been there 20, 25, 30 years? They're in line for a promotion, and now they may not get it. Now, oh, I can't have it. Now there's a freeze. And who says that freeze will be lifted, you know, and if it's lifted, will it be lifted for that position? So it's a lot of other things that are going to affect Black people and other people in this state. I understand discussion. I understand how people feel about certain topics. But right now, the work that needs to be done is trying to get in to our legislators, trying to get in, you know, to talk about, hey, it's some things that's going to be very detrimental to us, and that's what we need to focus on. Caller, you on there?
Thank you. Yes, some very valid points today that you're making. And listen, this is a Black talk radio show, which there's very little on the airwaves, especially in Arkansas today. So this is a serious show. So if folks, and I wonder if y'all are thinking the same way I am, if folks want to come on here playing, they need to do it somewhere else. But this is our 1 hour of seriousness for our people. I don't know. It's just, I wonder if it's coincidence that we got those 3 calls in a row. You know what I'm talking about? It almost seems to be like that was the same person. Go elsewhere playing if that's what happened. If not, I apologize. But this is a serious radio program I listen to and enjoy every Tuesday instead of so.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
It is a, well, I don't know, I don't want, let me just not speak for Tom, let me just not say what I was about to say. But when we say that we want to center Blackness in this space, when we say that we want to center, turn your camera on, when we say that we want to talk about Black folks, we also have to include our children in that. And so when we're talking about the fact, we talk about sexual orientation and gender identity, we cannot forget that there are Black children who are going to school, who are coming from homes where there are same gender loving, where they have same gender loving parents. And what's happening is that the school is not teaching what it means to be same gender loving, but you are denying the family structure of our own Black children. We have to think about this intersectionally, that we're talking about the quality of education in our schools. We got to talk about how our Black children are being treated if they don't come from this home that they say is declared in the Bible. So the Bible is part of the conversation. Our thoughts about it are part of the conversation. And if we really want to talk about who's being belittled in the conversation, it's our children.
And also, I understand that, and I take it a step farther. So many people call into these, not just the workplace or community voices, they may call into the barbershop, Respect for Life, or any other show. And they have these ideas, they have these complaints and everything. And the first question I ask, so Sarah Huckabee Sanders is the governor, but there was someone else who had better platform, better ideas, and a better agenda that people didn't want. Chris Jones. They didn't want them.
Who is they? Didn't want. Who is that?
Well, I won't say them. There were people who did not want him. Now, who those people are, whether it's conservatives, whether Republicans, whatever, but they chose someone who was going to further their agenda. And so what we have to do, we have to get behind candidates that's going to further our agenda.
Well, many of them did not want Chris Jones because he is first Black. Right? So that's another, yes. See, that's when we start talking about critical race theory. It asks us to apply the lens of race to the conversations that we are having so that we can begin to see the role that race plays in the issues that we are facing. And so some people could not bring themselves to vote for someone who is Black. I'm not going to let another Black man lead me. I'm not going to let another, because when I say another, the first one for me being former President Obama. And so people were in an uproar to have this Black man being the leader of their country. They could not fathom it. And we are still continuing to see how that inability of them to embrace the office of president, not even embrace him as a Black man, but can you just embrace the office of president and respect it? And they could not, because it was a Black man who held that office. And the thought for some people that a Black man would have the office of governor, they would not do it. So they gave up their own, they didn't even vote in their own right, vote for themselves. They gave up their own benefits for voting in favor of race, when now you're saying, oh, look at what she's doing. Well, to your point,
what you expect?
if you had been able to lift yourself up out of your inability to look beyond race, then you would be having a different conversation.
Yeah, because eventually, someone listening is going to have to go down to the workforce and file for unemployment, and you're going to hear those words. You don't qualify. You're not eligible. Or you're going to stand in line for a long time, because now there's a hiring freeze. So you can't get workers in to help you.
So now when you go to try to get our kids for your children, when you try to go get Medicaid, Medicare, when you try to go get rental assistance, oh, there's nobody to help you. Well, why is there nobody to help you? Because we can't hire nobody to come in here.
And the longer you are unable to do that, the longer you're unable to pay your bills, which means that now you're going to get behind. And then if you're renting, then you're going to get kicked out, right?
Right.
And so all of this affects your daily life, which is why we don't need to be arguing about the Bible.
Yes. And so let me tell you this, and I want, and people have to understand, you have to understand this. Yes, all this affects Black people, but you know what? It affects white people too.
Absolutely.
It affects both sides. It does not matter.
Everybody.
Everybody. But you know what? This is what you get.
But again, critical race theory asks us to apply the lens of race and to say, why do you think it only affects Black people? You think it only affects Black people because that's the face that they put on it in order for you to have this kind of feeling of animosity towards folks who are on government assistance. So we have to begin to lift ourselves up out of that narrow view and says, no, critical race theory is what you just said. It allows us to say, no, this is deeper than that. It affects every single person, and you need to see your place in the white folks. You need to see your place in the brown folks. You need to see your place in an Asian island, Pacific Islander folks. Everybody is struggling with racism, and that's part of the conversation. And that's what critical race theory is asking us to talk about, the bigger issues, the broader issues that affect everybody. They just have a disparate effect on Black folks.
Yes. And so if we don't get that, if we spend our time, I've said this before, we all in the same boat. And the boat is sinking fast. The people who not in the boat, they don't land. They stay. But they controlling the narrative of everybody else in the boat. And the way they're doing is say, you know what? We need to bail this water out the boat. We need to paddle to shore. But you know what? I'm not going to do it.
The way they're doing it is using God as a divider as well.
And so when you start looking at all these distractions, because all these distractions is not going to stop this one thing, these executive orders going to roll through.
Oh, they're already done. It's
They're
an executive
done.
order. It is done.
It's done.
To use the language, it is finished. Gave up the ghost.
And so we have to come back to this place. There is work for us to do, but we can't argue. We know what the work is. We know what we have to do. And so, you know what? I don't have to agree with everything you say, but the one thing I can agree with, continue this discussion until we finish this work.
Well, I don't even know if it's an argument. So for me, if you want to tell me what you're thinking, and I want to tell you what I'm thinking, and it's different, I don't consider that to be an argument. Like, I ain't mad at the people that call me. I'm not mad at them at all. Like, to me, that's the art of the conversation. It is for you to share, and for me to share, and for us to come to some understanding about what we are sharing and how we can use it to move the work forward. That's what I'm trying to figure out. I don't mind you entering into the conversation, but how can we use this for collective action? How can we use this conversation for collective liberation? How can we use this conversation to free our people? That's what I want to know.
Calling you there. Sorry about that. Call you in there.
Yeah, they said all problems are solved with questions and answers. Now, personally, you guys have a very important job to keep us on point, keep us on track. Now, we know the enemy is going to try to affect those things in there. That's what we need, a real 2-hour show. But the question is, how do we counter, or is there a way to counter these executive orders? We always talk about a counter-reason code. We need to codify ourselves. When they go a left, we need to go a right. So how do we counter, or is there a way to counter these positions that she took against what we call the big elephant in the room now, the counter-racist code?
Yeah,
Race theory, I'm sorry.
yeah, I'll explain.
Counter-racist code, counter critical race theory efforts.
Okay, let me get you off the air and I'll explain it to you. I'll tell you what we need to do.
Wait, hold on just a minute. I want to make sure that I get these comments in too, because they've been here for a minute. Want to say thank you to Solar Bean Spring. I want to say thank you to Solar Bean. Banning CRT is impossible to promote justice, and I won't pray for Sarah. The other statement is God don't like ugly. However, the United States enforced slavery. Is that not ugly? While you talking about somebody being same gender loving, is that not ugly? Answer that.
And so the question from Sullivan is, how do we counter the executive order? You counter the executive orders by getting somebody in the office that realizes that these orders are dangerous, that these orders are detrimental to so many people, and they can reverse them. It's just like when presidents come in, the first thing they do is do executive orders, reversing the executive orders of the former administration.
Right. So the immediate answer is there's nothing you can do about the executive
There's
order.
nothing you can do.
There's nothing. But in the long term, for the next, we got 4 years. For the next 4 years, we should be like Get Loud Arkansas with Joyce Elliott talking about
Get
voting,
loud,
making sure that we need to be registering people to vote, to get them to the polls so that they can exercise their right to vote, so that we can get Sarah Huckabee Sanders out of there if that's what you want to do.
And so this last executive order I want to mention is executive order to limit government overreach, reduce bureaucracy, and review previous executive orders. This goes right back to what Justice Clarence Thomas said as they overturned Roe versus Wade. He said, we need to go back and revisit and look at these other precedents that have been set and maybe overturn them. So now she has a team of people she's hired. Let's go back and look at all the executive orders that have been put out there, and let's find the ones, because now I got the power. I can overturn all of that stuff that's in there, and now we can have the government, the agenda, and the state. Remember, she keeps saying, we want this state to be this. We want this state to be this. And so it's not really, it's not encompassing the voice of everybody. And regardless of what you think about politics, politicians work. They're supposed to work for everybody, but we know that's a lie. Most politicians work for those constituents who are with them along their political lines, and we just have to get out and do better work.
And you mentioned Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas, again, another example of cognitive dissonance, because you're calling for an examination of these previous court cases that were passed. And the one that's going to affect him is the laws of segregation, where you're not supposed to be in an interracial relationship. So here you are believing something that you cannot live out in your own body. And so again, just another example of cognitive dissonance.
Yes. So we only have a couple of minutes left in this show. It has been it's been a great show. It's a lot of conversation, a lot of discussion.
I think that we're going to have to do, I think we might need to get some teachers on the show so that they can talk to us more about how the curriculum works, what the curriculum looks like, because I'm still bothered by this idea that people think that the schools are teaching children about what it means to be, teaching children about their sexual orientation. That's not what's happening at all. And for us to continue to perpetuate that, we are complicit in the false narrative, and it's harming our children, it's harming our teachers, it's harming our community. And so that might be some of the work that we need to do to get people to come on to help us to better understand what's happening in the classroom. Because those of us who've never been in there, we really don't get it. So we need to hear from the experts. So Tony is getting us ready for Mr. John, the legendary Mr. John is already in the house. We're getting ready to hear some amazing jazz in the house. And so don't touch that dial. You've been listening to KABF 88.3 FM, where we are the voice of the people. This is the workplace. It's always aired on Thursday morning at 9 a.m. And we hope to see you right back here Monday at 4 for Down with That, Tuesday at 9 for Community Voices, and Thursday again for the work place, but it will be the Health Corner. So tune in, don't touch that dial.